So, what is it that makes you, well, you? It's actually the very same force that lets a tiny virus evolve or a species stick around for millions of years. Today, we're going to dive deep into the engine of all life on this planet: variation and selection.
Really think about it. Look around a crowded room, walk through a forest, or even just look at your own family. Nobody is exactly the same, right? And that's not just some happy accident. It's the absolute number one rule that makes all of evolution possible.
So, all these differences, whether they're super obvious or kind of subtle, are what biologists call variation. It's like the raw material, the big box of Lego bricks that evolution gets to build with. And without that variety, you get nothing. No change, no adaptation, it all just stops. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with life's amazing variety, then figure out where it all comes from. After that, we'll see how nature picks the winners, look at how we humans get involved, and then, finally, we'll put it all together to see how this incredible engine really runs. All right, let's jump into our first section, life's wonderful variety. Because before we can get into how life changes, we've got to first get a handle on just how different everything already is. So, what is variation at its core? It's really simple. It's just the differences you can see between individuals of the same species. That's it. It's this super simple, obvious fact that kicks off this whole incredibly complex process. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Variation isn't just one thing. It actually comes in two main flavors. On one side, you've got these neat, separate boxes, like blood groups. You're either A, B, AB, or O. There's no in between. But on the other side, you've got a smooth spectrum, like height. You're not just short or tall. There's a whole range of possibilities. And this table breaks it down perfectly. That first type, with the clear-cut categories, that's called discontinuous variation. It's usually controlled by just one or a few genes. But the second type, the smooth spectrum, is called continuous variation, and that one's way more complex. It's controlled by lots of genes working together, plus the environment plays a role. It's a much bigger picture. Okay, so we've established that there's all this variety out there. But where does it actually come from? How do brand new traits even appear in the first place? To get that answer, we need to go right to the source code of life. It really boils down to three main things. First, and this is the big one, you have mutation. This is what creates totally new genetic information. Then you have meiosis and random fertilization. Now, think of these two like shuffling a deck of cards. They don't create new cards, but they shuffle the existing ones into brand new combinations. So every single individual ends up with a completely unique hand of genes. But let's zero in on mutation for a second, because it's the ultimate source of everything new. A mutation is just a random change in the DNA sequence. The easiest way to think about it is like a tiny typo in the massive instruction book of life. Now, most of these typos don't do anything, or they're even harmful. But every once in a while, a typo creates something new and useful. This is the creative spark for all new traits. We're talking everything from a new eye color to how bacteria become resistant to antibiotics. And here's a key point. While the mutations themselves are random, the speed at which they happen can change. Things in the environment called mutagens, think stuff like ionizing radiation or even just too much UV from the sun, can actually increase the rate of these typos, so they can kind of speed up the process of creating new variation. Okay, so we've got our variation. The raw material is there. But having a bunch of different options isn't enough. It needs a filter, a deciding force to pick which of those options get to stick around. And that brings us right into our next section, nature's deciding force. And what is that deciding force? Well, it's natural selection. Basically, the environment throws a bunch of challenges at a species, things like finding food, not becoming food, or just surviving a harsh winter. And any individuals that have variations that give them an edge in meeting those challenges, well, they're more likely to live, have kids, and pass on those winning traits. You can break this whole process down into 4 really clear steps. Step 1, you start with variation in a population. Step 2, more babies are born than can possibly survive, which leads to a struggle for existence. Step 3, the fittest individuals survive. And by fittest, we just mean the ones who are best adapted to that specific environment. And finally, step 4, the most important part. The survivors reproduce and pass their awesome genes onto their kids. Do that over and over, and the whole population starts to change. I know, this can all sound a little bit abstract, so let's make it real with a classic case study that everyone studying biology needs to know, the story of the peppered moth. This is a case where we literally watched evolution happen right before our eyes. Okay, part one, setting the scene. Before the Industrial Revolution hit Britain, the trees were all covered in this pale, blotchy lichen. This was perfect camouflage for the light-colored peppered moths. They blended right in. But there was also a rare, dark version of the moth. And against those light trees, well, they stuck out like a sore thumb for hungry birds. Then comes part two, the big change. The Industrial Revolution kicks into high gear. Factories start spewing out tons of soot. This soot kills off all that pretty lichen and turns the tree bark a dark, grimy black. All of a sudden, the entire environment has changed. This is what we call a selection pressure. The rules of the survival game have just been completely rewritten. And that leads us to part three, the result. Now, against that dark, sooty bark, who do you think stands out? The pale moths. And who's perfectly camouflaged? The dark ones. So the dark moth survived, they had more babies, and they passed on the gene for dark wings. And get this, in just a couple of decades, the whole population flipped from being mostly pale to almost entirely dark. That right there is natural selection in action. But here's the thing. Nature isn't the only game in town when it comes to selection. Sometimes we humans decide we want to take the steering wheel. And we call this artificial selection, or as you might have heard, selective breeding. The idea is simple. Instead of the environment deciding what's best for survival, we decide what's best for us. Think about getting more milk from cows, making corn sweeter, or breeding faster racehorses. We pick the traits we like, and we only let the individuals with those traits reproduce. And this table here does a great job of comparing the two side by side. The big differences to look out for are who's doing the selecting? Is it nature or is it us? What's the goal? Is it survival or is it something useful for humans? And check out the speed. Artificial selection can be way faster. So the basic idea is kind of similar, but the person in the driver's seat and the destination are totally different. This is a really good one to remember for your exams, by the way. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. So for our final section, let's pull all these pieces together and see how they fit into the big picture, the engine of evolution. And this diagram really says it all. The best way to think about this entire process is like an engine. Mutation, that's the spark. It's what creates brand new genetic variation. That variation is the fuel for the engine. Then the environment applies selection pressure. That's like the clutch engaging the gears. And as that engine runs, it drives survival and reproduction. And the final product, what comes out the other end generation after generation? It's adaptation. The species becomes a better and better fit for its environment. It's this powerful, non-stop cycle that has sculpted every living thing you've ever seen. And there you have it. That is how variation and selection work hand in hand as the engine of evolution. Hey, if this explainer helped you get your head around this for your O-level studies, do us a favor and subscribe to Spotwork Learning and give this video a like so we can make more. We've got a lot of new topics on the way. Thanks for tuning in.